Welcome back to Get This Game, where we're all about the board gaming goodness. I'm Jake, and this is Stock Exchange, which, frankly, I'm surprised you could even see me because of how big the box is. More on that later. But this comes to us from the Op. The Op, known for more of those kind of lighter party-style games, Hues and Cues, has been tearing it up on social media. The Tapple game as well has gotten some good virality on there. They typically do that style of game, very quick, very light rule set, but able to accommodate a lot of people. Now, this one, along with Gnome Hollow, which I have reviewed on my TikTok channel before, they're trying to enter into a different space, something that is a little bit more hobby board game-like, but still coming at it from a very accessible theme level, and a rule set that is, of course, manageable, but more gamer game, for lack of a better term. So I want to talk today about how Stock Exchange stacks up with some other kind of medium light sort of board game hobby in this category, and to just see, okay, is there something here in the fact that you are taking what is actually a very economic market manipulation game and putting it in a package with pretty flowers. So we're going to talk about how the game works, and then we're going to talk about the game's gameplay and design, presentation, and just its overall fun factor, and give it a final rating. If you do like what you see, if you like my vibe and you like what I bring to the table, I do encourage you to consider subscribing, hit the notification so you know when the next review is going to come out, and leave a comment. Would love to know if you've played this game. We'll call out right now, we're going to be talking a lot about Board Game Arena because Stock Exchange is one of the newer games on that online platform where you can play a bunch of board games virtually for free with others around the world. But for now, let's just get right into what Stock Exchange is and how it works. So in Stock Exchange, you're going to be manipulating the value of different types of flowers so that the total value of flower tokens in your personal supply is as high as possible. Now, on your turn, you are going to do one of two things. Either you can plant a flower bulb into this kind of garden board, or you can swap a flower token from the ones that are available with one from your personal supply. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, when you're planting a new bulb, because the flower tokens are double-sided, one showing a flower and the other showing a bulb, you'll place it down into an empty slot on the board, and it comes in as a bulb, as most flowers, of course, often do. After you have chosen to place down the bulbs into the garden, you are going to look at the board and check to see if that bulb has any open space beside it. If it does, it is going to officially bloom and flip over. If it is completely surrounded, then it will stay a bulb. After you have seen whether different tokens are going to flip over and bloom or not, you are going to see what clusters of different types of flowers have been completely surrounded. If a cluster or a group of one type of flower has been completely surrounded by other tiles, well, you are going to then harvest them, and that is what increases the value of those different flowers accordingly. Basically, when you are harvesting those tokens, you will take all of the tokens off of the board that are in the same group and match the same flower type, and then on this other board, you are going to move up that flower token that number of spaces, thereby increasing its point value when we get to the end of the game. Now, those tokens don't just go away forever when they're harvested. No, you're going to take all of the tokens that you have removed from that garden board and place them at the opposite end of that stock track. And the game will eventually end when those tiles and the value tokens at the other end of the spectrum meet in the middle. The other action you can take on your turn is swapping one of the tokens that are available in the Stock Exchange supply with one of the ones behind your screen, your personal supply. And in doing so, you're going to start to figure out exactly what types of tokens and types of flowers you want to try and lean into an increase in value while getting rid of the tiles and tokens that aren't going to be worth as many points at the end of the game. You'll continue adding tiles to the garden, surrounding complete groups of flowers to increase their stock value on the Stock Exchange. And eventually, like I said, when those two paths eventually meet in the middle, the game will end. But before it does, well, one other thing's going to happen. Whatever type of flower is furthest along that value track when those two lines sort of meet, well, that flower is actually going to decrease in value by 5. This is their little way of making it so that one certain type of flower can't really be increased in value and focused on too aggressively. So it does kind of bring things back down to earth. And that is another little bit of the game that you have to kind of manipulate and take care of. Along the way, you will be refilling the stock exchange with new flower tokens, and you can also use trowels as additional actions. Being able to use them at the appropriate time can be a big swing in just what flowers get harvested and thereby increase in value to kind of push towards that end game. At the end of the game, you will look at what flowers you have in your personal supply, multiplying them by their value based on that value board, and whoever has the highest combination of points will win. So for gameplay and design, Stock Exchange is going to get a 6.8 out of 10. I think the biggest thing for me here is calling out that there is a nice little puzzle here with respect to that market manipulation, and combining it with this kind of spatial puzzle is kind of satisfying. If you've seen me or watched me for a while, you know I love little puzzly token laying or tile laying type of games. And this combines that with a really interesting kind of market manipulation aspect, where you are going to be wanting to time out your moves and really think about the big picture of the garden board to set yourself up so that the flowers you want to increase in value actually do. I think there's a little bit of novelty and innovation there in terms of how all of that flows. I would say the rule set is very approachable. It's very easy to explain just what you can do on your turn, and there's not a ton of little nuanced, extra fiddly rules that you have to keep in mind. The big thing for me, though, is the price versus the game that you get in the box. By all accounts, this is a light to medium lightweight game overall. And the fact that it comes in this massive package that isn't just tall, but very, very thick, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And as a result, I think this game is a lot more expensive than it should be. And that leads great into presentation, which does get a 7.4 out of 10. The art style is pretty, rudimentary, very, very simple, very colorful in its credit. And of course, also the component quality here is really high. You are getting a solid box and presentation in this package. The tokens themselves, if they're not wood, gosh, they're awfully close, and they are really satisfying to manipulate and grab new tokens from the bag. That's all great. But again, I just question why a game of this weight and of this size and of this complexity needs to be in a package that is this big. And that is where it loses a lot of points for me. Look, it's like the size and height of my face. And this is a matter of just because he can doesn't mean he necessarily should. But you know what? With that in mind, the fun factor here is still going to be a 7.4 out of 10 for me. I would say mostly because this game and where I've played it the most has actually been on BGA. Once you factor out just how big of the production and the presentation is, how much components and how much stuff and the size of the box, you have a very streamlined, interactive sort of market manipulation puzzle here. The player interaction alone, having to think about and keep track of what moves your opponents are making, where they're choosing to put their tiles, and responding accordingly, it is all really tight and tough and fun, and it can be really easy to fall into a hole of playing multiple games of this to try and kind of like figure out that meta and have a really good time just how thinky it is. Playing those trowels at opportune times feels really great as well. Like I said, it can be the difference of pushing the end game just a little bit sooner than when your opponents wanted it to. And that is just a great little aspect of design here that I really like and feels good at the table. Stock Exchange is going to get a 7.1 out of 10 for me. Look, there is a great production in here, really high quality components. There is enough of a little spatial puzzle combined with market manipulation and a lot of player interaction that feels very satisfying and fun and the right amount of a light, medium weight game. I just wish it didn't come in the giant box that it did. If this was even like 33% smaller, I think it would justify its price and it would justify taking up that amount of space on my shelf. So I would say try this game out on BGA to see if you like it before you choose to pay the amount that it actually costs. I think for certain types of groups, if this does scratch the itch for you, it is well worth the price and ultimately would be the level of production that you would want to probably add this to your collection. So again, if that sounds good to you, you might want to get this game. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you do, again, like my vibe, like my jam, I encourage you to subscribe to get this game. We're coming out with more of these kind of one-off interviews, so you can keep an eye out for a game you want to learn more about. We'll keep doing the top 10s and the kind of deeper dives into some bigger games, but every now and then it's just fun to get some thoughts out onto the table about some smaller games in smaller packages. Present party excluded. That has been it for this episode. Again, consider leaving a comment down below what you think of the game. Have you tried it on BGA? Would love to know. Turn on notifications. And as always, thanks for playing.